The last girl in chains. The twin suns were setting over the desert planet of Varkun, painting the sky in red and gold. The alien slave market was almost empty now. Dust floated in the air. The crowd was getting smaller. All the slave girls had been sold except one. She sat on the metal stage, her hands and feet locked in thick chains. Her silver skin was bruised. Her long white hair was dirty, but still glowing in the sunset. Her red eyes stared at the crowd, not in fear, but in defiance. Like a wild creature trapped in a cage, the alien auctioneer shouted, "Last one. She's strong, she's fast, but beware, she's dangerous. Bit 2 guards, broke one man's arm, no refunds if she kills you." The crowd laughed nervously. "No one tames this beast," the seller added, kicking the girl's cage. "She's better off executed, but maybe one of you brave souls wants to try your luck?" The alien girl didn't flinch. She didn't cry or plead. She only looked away, her jaw tight. In the back of the crowd, a human man named Cade Halloran watched quietly. He wore a long brown coat, dusty boots, and had a scar running down his left cheek. His eyes weren't full of greed like the others. He didn't see a weapon. He didn't see a slave. He saw a question. "Why is she still alive?" Cade muttered to himself. The crowd began to leave. No one made a bid. The auctioneer cursed. "Fine, I'll have her thrown into the pits. I'll buy her," Cade said, loud and calm. Everyone turned. The auctioneer blinked. "You, human? You're serious?" Cade nodded and stepped forward. He tossed a credit chip into the auctioneer's clawed hand. "Paid in full." "She'll rip your throat out," the seller laughed. "Don't blame me when she does." "I won't," Cade said. Guards unchained the girl, keeping stun rods ready. She stood slowly. Even in chains, she moved with power. Her red eyes met Cade's. She tilted her head, curious, silent. Cade said nothing. He simply turned and began walking. The girl followed, still chained, guarded closely. But she never looked at the guards. She only watched Cade. That night they camped outside the city. The fire crackled. Cade sat across from her, offering food. She didn't take it. He placed it near her feet. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. She didn't answer. "I don't care what you were before. You're free now. Or you will be, when you're ready." Still no reply. Her eyes studied him, slow and sharp, like she was learning him. She ate the food, finally, but kept watching him like a predator. "You got a name?" he asked. She didn't speak. Cade leaned back, sighing. "Fine. Silent treatment. That's fair." He checked the fire, then looked at her again. "Why? Did they call you Untamable? You don't seem crazy to me." She smirked just a little, then looked away. Later that night, Cade fell asleep. When he woke up, she was gone. Her chains were open. No sound, no tracks. He reached for his weapon. Gone. Too, Cade cursed under his breath, standing quickly. His heart raced. "She ran," he whispered. "Of course she ran." He searched the area, quietly stepping through the dark. But then, he saw her. She was sitting near a rock by the cliff, holding his weapon in her lap. Not aiming it, just holding it. She looked at him as he approached. Calm, no fear. "You could have shot me," he said. She shrugged. "You escaped." She looked at the sky. "Didn't run far." Her voice was deep and soft, with a strange accent. This was the first time she spoke. "Why not?" Cade asked. "I wanted to see," she said. "What kind of man buys a wild thing and sleeps near her without fear?" Cade didn't answer. He only sat on the ground beside her. "What's your name?" he asked again. She hesitated, then said, "Rinkai." Cade nodded. "I'm Cade." She looked at him with unreadable eyes. "If you think I belong to you, I will kill you." "I don't," he replied calmly. "But I think maybe you don't want to be alone." Rinkai stared at him for a long time. Then she handed him his weapon back. He didn't smile. Neither did she. But something passed between them. silent, and powerful. Not ownership, not fear, understanding. Shackled and silent, Rinikai walked behind Cade, her hands still bound by loose chains. The sun had risen over the rocky hills and the desert wind bit at their skin. She didn't complain. She didn't ask where they were going. She only followed, with quiet steps and sharp eyes. Cade led the way through narrow trails. He didn't look back often. But when he did, she was always right there, watching. They reached a small canyon. Hidden deep inside was Cade's shelter, a half-buried old escape pod covered in dirt and vines. It was simple, just enough for 2 people. He unlocked the door and gestured. "You can go inside. It's warm." Rin didn't move. She stared at the pod like it was a trap. "I'm not forcing you," Cade said, "but this planet gets cold at night." Still, she stood in silence, not afraid, just calculating. Finally, she stepped in. He didn't follow. That night, Cade lit a fire outside and sat alone. Inside, Rin lay on a thin bed. The chains were still on her wrists, but loosely tied to a pipe. She could break it if she wanted. She didn't sleep. She listened. Outside, Cade spoke softly to a small recorder. "She hasn't said much today. I don't think she trusts me. Maybe I wouldn't trust me either." His voice wasn't angry, just tired. Then he paused and added, "But she didn't run." "Not really." She gave the weapon back. Rin closed her eyes, but not to sleep. She was thinking. Later, something strange happened. She heard a sound like a low growl, then a scream. Outside, she jumped up. Cade's fire was out. In the moonlight, she saw a large beast, a 6-legged desert hunter, pinning Cade to the ground. Without a second thought, she ripped the pipe from the wall and ran outside. The beast turned, teeth shining. She didn't hesitate. She attacked. With a loud roar, she threw herself at the creature, grabbing a broken metal rod from the ground and slamming it into the beast's side. It screeched and tried to bite her, but she dodged, slashing again and again. Finally, the beast fled into the dark, bleeding and angry. Cade lay on the ground, breathing hard. Rin stood over him, her chest rising fast, the pipe still in her hand. "Why did you come back?" he whispered, coughing. "You're mine." "She," said. Cade blinked. "What?" She looked away, annoyed. "I mean, I chose to stay. No one else gets to kill you, not yet." Then she dropped the weapon and sat beside him, silent again. In the morning, Cade made food. He handed her some. This time, she took it without a fight. As they ate in silence, he asked, "You saved me last night." She didn't reply. "You didn't have to." She glanced at him. "I did." "Why?" She stared into the fire and said, "Because I don't know what I am anymore." Cade looked at her, waiting. She continued, voice low. "I was a weapon. I was a fighter. I was feared. But now, they caged me, called me a thing, sold me like meat." She paused. "And you didn't treat me like that." "I still don't," Cade said gently. "I noticed." They sat in silence again. Then she asked, "You're not going to chain me again?" "No," he replied. "But if you leave, I won't stop you." She looked surprised. "Why?" "Because freedom matters." Her red eyes softened for the first time. Not much, but enough. Then she whispered, "Maybe I'll stay a little longer." That night she sat closer to the fire. No chains, no threats, just 2 strangers, alone under the stars. And slowly, something impossible began to form between them. Not trust yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Not just a slave. The desert wind howled outside the pod. Inside it was quiet, too quiet. Rinkai sat near the small window, her sharp red eyes scanning the sky. She wasn't watching for danger. She was watching for meaning. Cade was outside, fixing the solar panels. She had been free for days now, no chains, no orders. But she hadn't left. Not yet. She didn't know why. That evening, the silence broke. Cade returned with a bruised hand and grease on his shirt. Panel's dead. We'll need to move soon. Maybe north. Rin didn't answer. Instead, she asked a question. Her voice was calm, but serious. Why did you really buy me? Cade raised an eyebrow. You want the truth? She nodded once. He sat across from her and said, Because I saw a fighter, not a slave, and I was tired of watching good people thrown away. Rin tilted her head. You think I'm good? I think you were done wrong, he said. And I think you're trying to figure out who you are now. She went quiet again. Then she spoke something in her own language, soft and fast. What does that mean? Cade asked. She looked him in the eye. It means a blade doesn't choose its master. It chooses when not to kill. Cade let out a breath. And what are you choosing right now? Rin stood up and walked over to him. She knelt beside him, not to serve, but to be eye level. Then she whispered, To not kill. Yet. Cade didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled faintly. Good to know. Later that night, the wind outside turned cold. Sand scratched against the pod walls. Cade was sleeping. Rin wasn't. She walked to his side, quiet as a shadow. She looked at the scar on his cheek, at his peaceful face. She could have ended him right there. But she didn't. She sat beside him instead, not as a weapon, not as a captive, but as someone trying to understand this strange human. In the morning, Cade woke up to find Rin sharpening a metal rod with a rock. He reached for his tool bag cautiously. You planning to stab me? He joked. Only if you start acting like a slave owner, she replied without smiling. He chuckled. Then we're safe, he said. They packed what little gear they had and headed north, toward the old ruins in the mountains, where Cade thought they might find shelter, maybe old tech. As they walked, Cade asked, So what were you? Before the cage? Rin paused. Then she said, I was born to fight. My people trained us young. We were soldiers before we could speak. Your people? He asked. The first bond days passed as Cade and Rin moved through the rugged canyons deeper into the mountains. The nights were colder now, the winds harsher. But they didn't complain. They were learning each other, not with trust, not yet, but with silence that no longer felt dangerous. One night, while sitting by the fire in a hollowed-out stone cavern, Rin finally asked, Why are you alone, Cade? He stirred the fire with a stick and said nothing at first. Then he replied, Because I stopped following orders. She looked at him. You were a soldier? She asked. Used to be. Fought in 3 colonies. Killed people who looked like you. Was told it was the right thing. And now? Now I'm not so sure. Rin didn't say anything, but for the first time, she looked at him not as a buyer, not even as a human, just as someone like her, tired, scarred, and running. The next morning, a strange clicking sound echoed through the rocks. Rin froze instantly. Cade looked at her. What is it? Stay low, she whispered. That's a cliff spider, big one. He drew his rifle, but she stopped him. No, I'll handle it. She stood up, slow and steady, and stepped toward the sound. Cade watched, tense. Suddenly, a massive insectoid creature burst from a crack in the canyon wall, its jaws wide and legs fast. Before Cade could even raise his weapon, Rin was already moving. She didn't fight like a human. She flowed, twisting, spinning, striking with elbows and knees like she was dancing with death. She grabbed a sharp rock mid-roll and jammed it into the beast's soft underbelly. It screeched, flipped, and died with a thud. Silence returned. She turned back to Cade, panting slightly. His mouth was open. That thing would have torn me in 2, he said. She smirked. That's why I didn't let you handle it. Later, as they sat eating around the fire, Cade looked at her. I've seen elite soldiers, but nothing like that. I was trained to protect my bloodline, she said, softly. To die for them, if needed. You're a bodyguard? No. She paused. I was born from royal blood. Cade blinked. Wait, you're a... Don't say it, she cut him off. That word means nothing now. My family gave me away like trash. He nodded slowly. So you're not fighting for them anymore? No, she whispered. I'm fighting for me. That night the cave was quiet, but Rin didn't sleep. She sat near Cade watching the flames. Then she said, In my culture we don't bond easily. We don't trust. We test. Cade looked at her. And how long does the test last? She didn't answer. Instead, she did something unexpected. She reached out and placed her hand lightly over his. Her skin was warm, rough, strong, but the touch was gentle. I still don't trust you, she whispered. I know, he replied. But I don't feel alone anymore. Cade didn't move. He didn't ruin the moment with words. He simply turned his hand over and held hers. Not tightly, not possessively, just present. 2 warriors, 2 scars, 2 broken stories. But now 1 fire, 1 bond, small but real. The enforcers arrive. The morning air was too still. Cade felt it first. Not a sound in the canyon. No birds, no wind. Even the dust had stopped moving. Rin Kai felt it too. Her warrior senses tensed. She stepped out of the cave slowly, her eyes scanning the ridgeline. Then she saw them, black shapes on the cliffs, watching, waiting. They found us, she said. Cade followed her gaze. He cursed softly. Slavers? No, Rin said. Worse, enforcers, elite bounty hunters, not for money but for pride. They hunted escaped slaves like wild animals, and Rin was the biggest prize in the galaxy. They'll come fast, she said. They won't ask questions. Cade grabbed his bag and started packing supplies. We run? No, she said, gripping her blade. We fight. They didn't get far. Just before sunset, the attack came. A sonic blast shattered the cave wall. Cade was thrown back. Rin covered him, pulling him behind cover as laser shots lit up the canyon. 3 enforcers dropped from the sky, wearing silver armor and face shields. One of them called out, Return the property, human, and we might let you live. Cade looked at Rin. She was breathing hard, her muscles tight, her eyes locked onto the enemies. I'm not property, she growled. She stood tall, stepping out from behind the rocks. No chains. No, master, you want me? She shouted. Come take me. They did. The first enforcer charged. Fast, too fast for a normal human. But Rin wasn't normal. She met him halfway and slammed her knee into his helmet, cracking the visor. With a spin, she flipped him onto the ground and kicked his weapon away. The second attacker tried to shoot from above, but Cade fired first. His shot hit the jetpack, sending the enforcer crashing into the rocks. But the third, he was silent. Too silent. Cade didn't see him coming until it was too late. The enforcer struck from behind with a shock rod, sending volts of electricity through Cade's body. He collapsed. Cade! Rin screamed. She turned, and everything inside her snapped. She let out a raw, furious cry, not like a woman, not like an alien, but like something ancient and full of pain. She lunged. The third enforcer was strong, but not strong enough. Rin moved like a storm. Every strike was precise, brutal. She didn't fight for survival, she fought for him. In seconds, all 3 enforcers were down. 1 groaning, 2 unconscious. Rin stood over them, chest heaving, her hands bloody. Then she dropped to her knees beside Cade. He was breathing, but barely. She shook him. Stay with me. You don't get to die now. His eyes opened slightly. You didn't run. She held his face, voice trembling. I'll never run again. Later that night, After the fire was built and Cade's wounds were treated, he looked at her and said, "You could have left." "I know. You didn't." "No." "Why?" She looked into the fire and whispered, "Because you saw me before I saw myself." He didn't respond, but she didn't need him to. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small silver object, a marking blade. Warrior tradition. She pressed it to her own arm and etched a simple symbol. It meant chosen bond. When Cade asked what it was, she said only 3 words: "I chose you." The decision Cade didn't wake up for 2 days. The injuries from the enforcer's shock rod had gone deep. His skin was burned, his nerves shaken. His breathing was slow and uneven. Rin never left his side. She cleaned his wounds, wrapped his arms, fed him water drop by drop. She didn't eat, she didn't sleep. She just watched him, like a predator guarding her wounded mate. She kept whispering words in her native tongue. Ancient, sacred, prayers of the Kaitha warriors. "I was born to protect," she whispered, but never allowed to choose who. This time she had chosen, and the galaxy would burn before she gave him up. On the 3rd morning, Cade stirred. His eyes blinked open slowly. He looked up, dazed. Then he saw her, Rin Kai, sitting with her knees pulled up, her hands bloody and her eyes softer. "You stayed," he whispered. She leaned forward, voice low. "You would have done the same." He smiled faintly. "You sound sure. I know you now." He looked around. "Where are the enforcers?" "Gone," she said. "Or buried." He coughed, then asked, "What happens now?" Rin was silent for a moment. Then she stood, walked to the fire, and picked up the marking blade again. "I made my choice already," she said, turning it in her hand. "But now it's yours." Cade sat up slowly. "What do you mean?" She faced him. "The galaxy is hunting me," she said. "More will come, stronger ones, smarter ones. And if you stay with me, they'll hunt you too." Cade didn't speak. "You can leave now," she continued. "I'll give you one of their ships. You can go back to Earth. Live free. No chains. No war." He looked at her, then at the blade in her hand. He could see the new scar on her arm, the symbol she carved for him, chosen bond. "You really believe I'd walk away from you?" he said. "I believe you should," she whispered. "You're not a killer, Cade. You're not like me." "I don't need to be like you," he replied. "I just need to stand beside you." Rin's eyes burned. She looked away quickly. No one had ever said those words to her, not without wanting something in return, not without a lie hiding behind them. But Cade wasn't lying. He had proven that with every action, every bruise. Every time he handed her a weapon instead of a chain, she sat down beside him and gave him the blade. "Then mark yourself," she said. Cade looked at the blade. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a symbol. He was just a man. But he pressed the blade into his own forearm and carved the mark matching hers. His face twisted in pain, but he didn't stop. When he finished, Rin took his hand. They didn't smile. They didn't cry. But in that moment, something unbreakable passed between them. That night they burned the bodies of the fallen enforcers and took what tech they could salvage. Among the gear was a message chip. When Cade opened it, a transmission played in a cold, mechanical voice. "Target Rinkai. Status priceless asset. All nearby units converge. Termination of accompanying human authorized." Rin's jaw clenched. Cade just stared at the chip. "They won't stop," he said. "No," she replied. "But neither will we?" As dawn broke, the two of them stood at the edge of the canyon looking out over the rising sun. 2 fugitives, 1 warrior princess, marked for death, 1 human soldier, scarred by choice. But together, they were something new, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Rise of the bonded. The old world was burning behind them. Cade and Rin stood on the deck of a stolen enforcer skimmer, flying low over the dead canyons. Smoke trailed behind as the last of the slaver camps fell into chaos, burned by their own. Prisoners freed by Rin's blade and Cade's stolen codes. They had become a myth, not just to the hunted, but to the hunters. Some called her the Ghost of Chains. Some called him the man who bought the fire. But they had one name for themselves now: bonded. They didn't run anymore. Now they moved with purpose, from shadowed moons to corrupted trade hubs, freeing slaves, crashing auctions, scattering the network that once tried to own her. The price on their heads doubled, then tripled. Ships started tracking them across systems. Every port became a trap, every friend a risk. And yet, they didn't stop, because for the first time Rinkai was living by choice. And Cade, he had found more than a cause. He had found a reason to fight again. Then came the final warning. A beacon from a rebel contact lit up their console. Static filled the air before a frightened voice broke through. They're coming for you, not just hunters, her family, the Kaitha Highborn, the bloodship itself. Cade looked at Rin. She stood frozen. I thought they abandoned you, he said. They did, she whispered. But now, I'm a threat. Cade stood slowly. What will they do? She turned toward him. If they can't recapture me, they'll erase me. The bloodship arrived 3 days later, massive, black, silent. It hovered over the desert like a god, its gravity bending the air. From it descended 12 warriors in red armor, tall, silver-skinned elites like Rin, each one bearing the crest of the Kaitha, and with them came a figure in royal gold robes, her mother, High Matron Sirkai. Rin and Cade waited in the old temple ruins of Zareth, where shattered statues of forgotten gods leaned against the sand. Cade loaded his rifle, calm but alert. Rin stood in the open, unarmed. When the 12 warriors arrived, they formed a circle. The High Matron stepped forward. She didn't smile. You live, she said. That was unexpected. I do more than live, Rin replied. I fight. I choose. I bleed for someone who didn't throw me away. Her mother's face didn't change. You were a weapon that refused to be wielded. We discarded you. That was mercy. No, Rin said. It was cowardice. The matron stepped closer. Come back. Kneel. We will clean your name. Only if he comes too, Rin replied, motioning toward Cade. The Kaitha guards shifted angrily. One stepped forward. A human? You dishonor our blood with this thing? Rin met his eyes. Say that again and I'll rip your tongue out. Cade stepped forward now, calmly. She doesn't belong to you anymore. And she never did. The matron raised a hand. Then you've chosen death, she said. Rin drew her blade. No, I've chosen war. The first blow came from the left. One of the red-armored elites rushed in with a plasma spear. Rin ducked, twisted, and broke his leg with a snap that echoed through the ruins. Cade fired a shot, dropping another attacker who had tried to flank her. His rifle clicked empty. He tossed it and drew his knife. They fought back to back. 12 warriors, 2 bonded, but the 2 moved like they shared breath, Rin spinning like fire, Cade moving like shadow. She blocked what he couldn't see. He struck where her enemies didn't look. One by one, the warriors fell. But the matron did not move. Not yet. When only she remained, Cade was bleeding from the arm. Rin's lip was cut, her armor cracked. But she stood tall. Her mother stepped forward slowly. You have their blood. You were born a Kaitha, but now you fight like a deathworlder. I learned from one, Rin said, glancing at Cade. The matron raised her own blade now. Elegant. Deadly. I raised you to lead an empire. You chose to throw it away. For love? Rin didn't blink. I didn't throw it away, she said. I built something better. Their fight was not fast, it was old, it was personal. Rin and her mother clashed steel to steel, fury to fury, memories in every strike, every kick. Every lock and break, Cade didn't interfere. He knew this was her war. Minutes passed, dust flew, then finally, Rin stood over her mother, blade at her throat. She didn't strike. "You will leave this planet," she said. "You will erase the bounty. You will tell the Kaitha I died, and you will never hunt us again." Her mother looked at her with something unfamiliar. Was it shame? Was it pride? She didn't answer, but she left. Hours later, Rin and Cade stood at the cliff's edge. Below, the fire from the ruins still glowed in the dark. "You could have killed her," Cade said. "I know. Why didn't you?" She looked at the stars. "Because she'll have to live with the truth now. The weapon they threw away came back stronger, not alone." Cade smiled softly. He reached into his pack and pulled out something small, a simple ring, made from the wire of the Enforcer's ship. "I made this," he said. "No diamonds, no crown, but it won't break." Rin looked at it. "Is this a human thing?" she asked. "Kind of," he replied. "It means I'm yours. And you're mine. If you want that." She took the ring slowly. Then she looked up. "I want that." And so the bonded vanished into the stars. Not hunted, not owned, just free. And everywhere they went, they left behind stories. Of a girl who was untamable. Of a man who didn't chain her. Of a love born not from peace, but from fire. The galaxy would remember their names: Rin Kai of the Broken Crown, Cade Halron of the Second Bond, and long after they were gone, children would whisper the legend. If you hear the wind howl and the stars shimmer red, it means the bonded still walk.